Hello everyone, Train Lover 16 here. Welcome back to my random shit reaction series. Today we are watching an episode of a railway documentary series that I hold quite close to my heart. My granddad once recorded this series onto a DVD for me when it was airing on the Discovery Channel about 10 years ago. It's more like 12 years ago, actually. And I watched it religiously between the ages of 6 and 9. In fact, he recorded 2 DVDs, one of the first season, one of the second season. This is an episode of the first season we're watching. So, yeah. I hold this series quite dear to my heart, and for that reason, we're going to be reacting to an episode of Trainspotting. No, not any of the films. This is a different Trainspotting, a documentary series. Now, as I recently went to the Isle of Man at the end of June and the very beginning of July. Well, I came home at the very beginning of July. I thought that I'd react to the offshore special where the two presenters, Mark Collins and Mark Found, went to the Isle of Wight, and where I went to the Isle of Man, respectively. So guys, with no more ado, let us get right into this. Oh, that theme song brings back so many memories. Oh, the nostalgia. Oh, that music's good. Oh, I could cream my pants over that music.
Welcome to Trainspotting, and it's an offshore special as we indulge ourselves in the rich heritage of railways a little further afield. Collins dips his toe in the water and pathetically paddles over to the Isle of Wight. I, on the other hand, being far more adventurous, make it all the way to the Isle of Man.
Now, dickhead. Yeah, Mark Found is far more arrogant than Collins.
As my young lad would say, it's not fair. The Isle of Man, lucky old place, 32 miles long by 11 miles wide, has got no less than 5 railways.
The Isle of
And
Man
I'm not
is
talking
14
about busy
miles
commuter
wide
lines
at its
packed full
widest
of complaining passengers. I'm talking about 5 bona fide,
I don't care if I'm
interesting
sounding
railways.
nerdy.
We'll get to see them all during the course of the series, but let's start with this one.
I'm probably going to be
Douglas
incredibly
Horse tramway.
nerdy in
Just
this.
getting it ready
this
for the
whole
day
thing,
here,
in this series.
That'll do nicely, just there. And in charge of the horse tramway is this man here.
Such a shame
Peter
that it's
Cannon.
not currently running
Peter,
the
how long
horse
has this
tramway.
tramway been here?
Started in 1876, so that's 126 years.
And do these cars date from that period as well?
These particular ones don't. These ones here are from 1896.
So they're still pretty old though, aren't
Oh
they?
yes, absolutely.
Well, the interest here really for us is horses.
Yeah.
They're just being got ready for the day, aren't they?
Yes, I hope so.
boring
Yeah.
They'll be
old
let up in a
horses.
minute. Let's allay any
Interesting, my
fears
arse,
from animal
boring old
lovers. What
horses.
sort of life do they
I'm
lead?
joking,
These
guys.
really,
Although I take more interest
Basically,
in
they do 2 hours a
trains,
day, which is 3 times.
I do have
Up
a
and
bit
down
of an
promenade.
interest in
And then that's
horse-drawn
it.
trams as
The
well.
stables.
How
bed
far is
work.
that?
For 12 miles.
Is it right?
Yeah.
And then so that's the summer life for them.
Yeah.
And then in the winter it's
Nothing. Run about in the field.
That was short. That was short. That was a short. Look at it. Much bigger than.
The Victorians went a bit railway mad on the Isle of Man. There used to be a cable railway in Douglas and an electric tramway up on the cliffs.
That's true.
This has lasted well though, hasn't it? This is the impressive terminal building of the Isle of Man Steam Railway.
Yeah, in all
Although, truth to be
seriousness,
told,
it's nice.
it now shares its building with people who take drugs. Customs and excise.
Oh,
Sadly, its railway network
can't
has
be-
been reduced.
that
The
can't
only
be good.
remaining piece left is this 15.5 mile bit between Douglas and Port Erin.
Yeah, I wish that more of it
The
would
sight that
survive.
greets you on the platform is pretty impressive,
well, come on.
with her rake
I
of three
wonder if they
coaches,
take
this
magic
venerable
gems,
old
those
lady,
people who
engine
take
number 4,
drugs
locked.
at the station.
Hard to remember that this isn't a preserved railway, it's a working line under the control of the Ministry of Transport.
Then why did they close the lines
Our
to
driver
Peel
today,
and
John, isn't a
Ramsey
volunteer but a
if it's
paid
a public
employee,
railway?
as he
That
has
makes
been
no
since
sense.
1961 when he started. A few memories since then. He was the driver of the
Still
last
popular.
train back from Ramsey in 1968 and the driver of the Royal train in 1972.
Christ, that's a loud whistle. Very
The railway was officially opened on the 1st of July in
My voice.
1873.
The video made it a bit loud compared to my voice. Sorry about this, guys.
The railway was officially opened on the 1st of July in 1873 by the Duke of Sutherland.
Almost 150
He
years
cut the
old.
ribbon and then travelled on the train at the ridiculously high speed of 25 miles an hour.
Oh, I'm gonna be nerdy again. It's actually 30 miles an hour. The train travels.
I've just made that up. Oh, it is a Sutherland. Right.
You also made up the 25 mile an hour bit. The trains travel at 30 miles an hour on the Isle of Man Steam Railway. That's faster than the RH and DR. Oh, that's a good. Oh, that is a sight to behold, isn't it? Oh, well, that is the sound. Oh, I could cream my pants to that sound. People like me cream their pants to that sort of thing. I wonder what. I bet other people cream their pants to what they're most interested in.
Unlike the Welsh narrow gauge railways, the Isle of Man Steam Railway was specifically built to haul passengers. Back in Victorian times, vast crowds were arriving on the island via the steam packet, but as the roads were so atrocious, they needed something else to get them around.
Roads are still atrocious today, to be honest.
This is Santon, and this is a temporary terminus while some major engineering works are going on down the line. It's a bit of a pain for the passengers, but great news for us, because it means we get to see things like this, engines running round. Fantastic.
Oi, get out of the way, Fly. Why are you so rude, Fly, getting in his way? Chuck it down, will you?
The railway hasn't always been owned by the government. Private companies ran it until 1978 with varying degrees of success. And it hasn't always been used by paying passengers. During the First World War, for instance, the railway was used in conjunction with a prison camp for internees in the west of the island at Knockalow. Lovely railway, isn't it? And by the time you watch this piece, the line should be up and running in its entirety.
Yeah.
There has been a plus side to all
Of
this
course
engineering
it
work.
will.
Virtually all the track will have been relayed, resulting in a smoother, if not faster, journey.
Of course
The
it will
future,
be.
it
This
would
was filmed
seem,
20
is
years
looking very
ago.
bright indeed for the Isle of Man Steam
It was
Railway.
filmed 20 years ago. It was yeah, it was 2010. My granddad call it the DVD. Oh, widescreen, totally widescreen. That's a unique
Here in the UK, we're
transition.
constantly hearing about the inefficiencies of the train operating companies. As the nursery rhyme says, when she
That
was good,
applies
she was
even
very, very
today.
good, but when she was bad, she was horrid. We get to hear about her every time she was horrid, which is why you never get to hear about the Island Line here on the Isle of Wight. Out of all the train operating companies, they are the most efficient. That should be the 823. Bang on.
Yeah, underground trains. Use underground trains.
Steve Wade is the general manager of the Island Line and the man who finds himself in the enviable position of controlling such a smooth operation.
Now, of course,
you're famous for your timekeeping here on the island, especially with the island line. Are you like slaves to the catamarans and hovercrafts and ferries that come over from the mainland?
We have to. It's fair to say we have to.
They're abused by the hovercraft. Yeah, the railway company is abused by the hovercraft and ferry companies.
So that someone can go off the island or come to the island.
Railway company
and be
abuse
met by
much.
public transport. So all our
Don't think the
timetables are
uni-
geared around the Wight Link Fastcat service from
Who
Portsmouth.
thinks we should start a society to prevent train company
Here we are
abuse?
on Ryde Pier. What are the problems of running a train on a pier?
We don't have any at all. The biggest problem we have is during the winter months with high tides.
You contradicted yourself, mate. You said there were no problems at all, and now you're giving problems about running trains over piers in the winter. You literally contradicted yourself in the same breath. What the hell, man?
And we're putting an alternative service for people to go off the island on the boat.
So why was it decided to use tube stock on the island then?
One of the big reasons from the when electric trains came over here, it was steam before until the late 80s.
Steam until the late 1980s. Now that
we have a tunnel
something to admire.
just outside Ryde Esplanade.
If they had steam till the late 80s, I'd say they should have kept on using steam trains.
What I call a mainland train was too big to actually be used on the island.
Oh, right.
So they had to look at suitable stock, and the suitable stock was the ex-London Underground trains. They were modified.
This is the actual tunnel we're in now?
This is the tunnel now. They were modified when they were brought over to the island, and any future trains that may be planned for the island would have to be of an underground size.
Right.
Yeah, and the trains that run on the Isle of Wight now are
It is 1938.
Right. Do you ever
the
have to
trains that
send it
run
back
on
to
the
the mainland
Isle of Wight
to
now are former
No, it's far
District
too
Line
expensive
D-stock
to
trains.
send back to the mainland.
But the
We
trains
do
that ran
actually
then
do
were
everything here on the
former
island. Our depot
1938
provides St John,
Waterline stock.
which are more than welcome to come and have a look round later.
Can we?
Yeah, most certainly.
Again.
So here I am then in the maintenance shed at Ryde, and I'm joined by Jess Harper, who's the maintenance shed manager. Jess, what modifications needed to be made to these units before they could travel on these or XPR
This was the first time I'd heard the name
first
Jess
choice was to
outside of
remove
Jess
the
the
negative
cat
earth,
from Postman Pat.
shoe and stick
and
with
part
two
of me was,
positive
when I
shoes,
first watched this, was
shortening the
thinking,
shoe
why
beam
isn't
and
he a
removing the
cat?
trip cock. The majority of the
I don't know, I just thought
modifications were done at Eastleigh
oh
before
look, it's
commissioning over here.
Godzilla.
So do these have to be sent back to Eastleigh for
They'd
maintenance?
be like,
No, we maintain them here.
And is this what's happening over
our
here?
dragon, if our dragon
So
is
what's
at
going
this,
It's a
is at the
C4
premiere
exam,
of this, I'd
which
like
is
him to
a
tell me what he
heavy-duty
thinks of
exam.
Godzilla being
All
on
the
that
heavy
train.
equipment is stripped from the train. The area you're looking at,
Unfortunately,
framework around
They no longer run
the
in
wheels
dinosaur
is a
livery,
bogie.
these
The
trains.
bogie supports the wheels and the suspension. It also holds the brake equipment, all of which is overhauled on a C4. The traction motor, which is an LT100, rated at around about 167 horsepower, is also overhauled. And that's really about it. It's all stripped by us and sent off on trucks to LTREW Acton. They do the overhaul work. The wheel sets go to Wembley for returning to put a new profile on them. On completion, it's returned to us.
Now this one, as we can see, is going back to its original LT red colour.
That's right.
Why is that?
Well, the management actually thought it'd be a good idea to go back for a little bit of heritage. People
I
like that sort
agree.
of thing
It's
much
nice-
as they
it's
like
always
the
nice
dinosaur
to do
trains, so maybe a tourist attraction.
Toot. Electric toot.
Bang on time again. And that's how you run an efficient railway in the 21st century. But
I'm
how did they
sorry,
do it
but
in the
those trains are
19th
actually from the
century? Well,
20th
you can find
century.
out at
I'm
the end
being
of the programme,
nerdy again.
as I'm staying on the
And
island.
even the trains that currently run on the Isle of Wight Railway are from the 20th century.
It's the Isle of
They were from
Manigate,
1980,
steam railway at
the,
one end of the
D-stop
promenade
trains.
and this at the other, the Manx Electric Railway. And we get a tour of the depot in the company of Paul Ogden, Superintendent of Transport.
Thanks very much for allowing us to come to the depot this morning. Let's
quite
go
all right.
back to the start of the line. When was construction begun?
Construction started early 1893, and
Yeah.
the first section of the railway, as far as Groudle, opened in September 1893.
And car number 2 here, would that have dated from that period?
That's right, that's one of the
Car
original
number 2 was
cars.
red, it's red
number
now.
1 and number 2.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah,
number 3, but
I am being
unfortunately that
very
was lost in a fire at
nerdy,
Laxey in
'cause
the
you know
1930s, but, 1 and 2 are
As my
recorded in
name
the Guinness
suggests,
Book of
I am a
Records as
train
being the
enthusiast,
oldest,
so
regular
I
operation
naturally I have
cars
to
in
be
the world.
nerdy during
These are
watching of
the
train
latest
train
of styles,
documentaries.
aren't they? Number 2022 here.
The 19 to 22 series were built in 1899
Yeah.
for the opening of the railway through to Ramsey.
Yeah.
That's its furthest point. And these trams actually then provided the mainstay of the service from then on. As you can see, they're rather larger and slightly more sophisticated.
I mean, we have to remember this isn't some sort of restoration project, is it? You know, this isn't run by a bunch of enthusiasts. This is a public railway.
It is. I mean, it was a private company which was nationalised by the Isle of Man government in 1957, but really has run continuously ever since 1893, via a few vicissitudes. And it's been an evolving process, but the railway really runs today almost in a manner that it always has done.
They're cleaning
You're quite
it with
right.
calm.
It's run by full-time staff, paid staff.
Yes, guys, I
as
do have a
transport
juvenile sense of
operation,
humour.
albeit of a vintage nature.
They cleanly praise the car.
Right, you see that tram? Well, I'm on that, with a bloke who knows all about the Isle of Man. David Cretney, Minister of Tourism.
Well, the Isle of Man is a crown dependency, self-governing crown dependency. We're responsible for raising our own taxes. We have a value-added tax arrangement with the United Kingdom, and we also pay them to look after our defence and for consular representation in foreign countries, because obviously that makes sense to have an arrangement with them for that.
It doesn't mean that people need a passport to come here, does it?
No, the doorways
No,
are
that
open.
would be
We're
awful, isn't
pleased
it?
to welcome people from wherever to come and spend time with us in particular. And obviously, when people come to work on the island, they require a work permit. But other than that, there are no restrictions. We have the Snaefell Mountain Railway, we have the Manx Electric Railway, and we have the Isle of Man Steam Railway. The Isle of Man Steam Railway in 1995 celebrated 125 years.
It's going to celebrate.
The Manx Electric Railway and the
it's gonna
Snaefell
celebrate,
Mountain Railway are both over 100 years old and are very unique and real treasures.
It's going to celebrate 150 years next year. The Isle of Man Steam Railway, 150 years. With some of the original engines still operating.
The railway was built back in 1893, allowing passengers to visit Housecrake Estate, a couple of miles outside Douglas. It was a
I don't
roaring
know.
success, I'm glad to say, but services were soon stopped. But don't worry, it was to allow the expansion of the railway to Laxey. It was double track all the way, and the line was officially opened on July the 27th, 1894. During the best part of the last century, the railway did have competition
I
from the
haven't
steam
heard about
service.
them.
The electric railway claimed a timing of 70 minutes against the steam railway's advertised 68. But we know who won in the end, don't we? I'm not seeing any steam here.
Yeah, steam.
We welcome
yeah, the
people who
electric
to come and
railway.
spend some time and to enjoy this kind of history of the Isle of Man.
Yes, that's why I went to the Isle of Man.
Okay, that's it. 3 down, 2 to go. And you can see the other railways on the Isle of
I
Man.
used to think that when it was
Well,
raining, they'd pull the
why don't you
shutters
keep
down
watching?
on those on the open cars. That would be very inhumane, though. Glitchy sounds.
Nowadays, if you travel on a preserved railway, then you're probably sitting in an old
What
BR
even was
Mark 1
House
carriage,
Code
which
Estate anyway?
sometimes can take away from the authenticity. However, if
Oh,
you
this
come
is
to the
something
Isle of
that-
Wight Steam
that's
Railway,
something that
you get the
only-
real
that
McCoy
only
with
really
locos and
stingy train
carriages.
enthusiasts would complain about. Old,
The line passes through
old
5.5 miles of
pre-World
unspoiled
War II
island countryside between
locomotives
Smallbrook
pulling
Junction and Wootton. And it's not just the trains that are
1950s
preserved.
BR Mark
It's the
I
infrastructure,
coaches.
the
That's the only
buildings,
sort of thing
and the
that
operating
really,
practices
really
too.
hardline train enthusiasts would complain about. Pre-World War II engines pulling, what he's talking about is something that only hardcore, really, really hardcore train
Now, Leo
enthusiasts
Roberts, you're the
would complain
assistant
about.
commercial manager.
Pre-World War
And
II
this is
engines
why
pulling,
I've come here today. I know this
1950s
engine
BR
is
Mark
hailing
I
Billy.
coaches.
Yes.
I'm a mainlander.
Taking away from
You're
the
an islander.
Yes, number 8
Like,
freshwater.
who cares
yes,
as long as you
yes.
get to see the nice steam
So,
engine?
without trying to sully her name too much, she's
In
been
my
about a bit.
opinion.
Yes, started off life in London on suburban trains, then coming down.
If any
from the ship to
hardcore
the
train
island,
enthusiasts will
and then
watch
going
this,
back to the mainland
fight
to
me.
run on Hailing Island branch, then back onto the island again in preservation.
for
So she's
stating
been
my
around a bit, as I
opinion.
say.
Now, she used to frequent the pub as well.
Yes, she was. She became the Hailing Billy when she finished running passenger
pub,
trains on
go
the
out
Hailing
to the
Island
pub with
branch.
your mates.
She was bought by the local brewery, stuck on a small plinth of track and stuck outside the pub there. So to all the locals, yes, she's known as a Hailing Billy.
So why was this particular locomotive used then on that particular line?
Because of the weight restriction on the bridge on the branch line there, it was a very weak bridge, so we had to be a locomotive that was fairly lightweight, and majority of the locomotives were too heavy for it. So she was kept on really longer than they would have been kept in service because she was useful for that role to run on the branch
Going
line.
back to
And what
what
state was she
Mark
after
Found said
being
about
in the pub
House
for so
Coke
many
Estate,
years?
so I don't
She's fairly
even
reasonable
remember
condition, really,
House Coke
not
Estate being
not too much deterioration.
on the island.
Comparing her
Being-
to like
being
the
an
saddle
attraction
tank
on the
engine
island
you've
when
got
I
over
went.
there.
So I've
She's still very small,
So it
isn't
must
she?
Yes,
it's
it
very
is very
likely
small,
it's
but it's
closed
got
down
quite
now.
large cylinders, so it's fairly powerful,
don't even know
and
what
it's
House
able
Coke
to
Estate
handle
is.
a reasonable sized
I
train.
assume it was at
And when she is
Groudle,
working a train, there's that constant
given
banging.
what
What's that?
I
That's
assume
the
it was at
Westinghouse air
Groudle,
brake pump.
given
The pump on the
what
side of the engine there compresses air in the
given
reservoir
what the guy
for the train brakes to
said
stop
about
the
the
brakes.
railway
brakes
first
are run by
opening as far
compressed
as
air.
Groudle. What was that about air pressure?
The pump on the side of the engine there compresses air in the reservoir for the train brakes to stop the brakes.
Oh,
The
yeah, the
brakes work
brakes.
by compressed air.
Oh, that is a nice. Now that is a nice sight.
So you're still calling her freshwater after all her hailing bills?
Yes,
We'll agree to differ on that.
I think so.
Again, another thing that only hardcore enthusiasts would
Now,
do.
Leo, it's not just the locos that you restore here in the shed, it's these magnificent carriages. When do they date from?
Well, the earliest one to date from is around 1870 to the newest one of about 1920, 23, 1924. This one here built in 1916.
So what's happening to this one at the moment? Because has it been rubbed out?
Yes, it's been rubbed down. It's having some woodwork replaced at the top of the carriage there, and some of the windows are out just for some general maintenance, and it'll be repainted. Be back out in about a month's time, I would have thought.
And southern green paint as well?
Yes, it's all original. The paints we use are the original
Has to
colour
be original.
paints.
And what about the interiors? Because the interiors of some of these carriages, they look so authentic.
Yes,
aren't
they are. Yes, we go to great pains to get the right material, the maquette, and all these original posters in the carriages, the luggage racks. to make it
Perfection,
exactly as it
only the
was
best and
originally,
only absolute
and,
perfection.
a great deal of time and effort goes into to doing that.
Now, as they say in all great TV programmes, Leo, here's one I made earlier.
Yes, it is. Yes, it just recently outshot from the workshops about 3 weeks ago. It's all completely fully restored now.
Yeah,
and just
looks-
waiting to go
looks
into
very
traffic.
nice.
So is this hand-painted, all these
Yes,
lines
all
right
painted
here?
by our experts in the workshop there, all done by hand. Many hours of work have gone into this.
Even the painting of the word third?
Yes, yeah, that's all
Not
painted.
transfer?
No, it's all painted
Hand-painted.
on. All
Only
original
the
handles.
most,
As you see inside, everything is original.
Only the most,
Wow, it looks
only
absolutely
the absolute
fantastic.
best and most authentic will do.
And that's what I like most about this railway. It has an authenticity and a charm. I know it's not exactly Disneyland, but it's run with pride and dignity, and they are truly 19th century values.
Yeah, but again, I personally wouldn't count. Yes, I do like the older carriages, but I don't care if I'm travelling in a 1950s VR Mark I coach being pulled by a pre-World War II engine.
Well, that trip to the Isle of Man looked really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Steam Railway looked good as well.
Very picturesque.
I've never been to the Isle of Man.
Lovely place, you ought to go.
Should you buy me a present, perchance?
Only an Isle of Man sweatshirt.
Oh, fantastic.
Bung it on, see what you think.
Thanks very much.
Did you get me anything from the Isle of Wight?
No, I didn't actually.
Thought we were mates.
It's a bit tight.
Yeah, well, they didn't do a fat bloke size.
Oh! Roasted him good. And, well, I enjoyed this more than I thought I would, to be honest. I had more jokes to make than I thought I would. Next time, oh, hang on. No. Don't want to start watching the next episode. Next time, we're going to react to yet another episode of Terrorhawks. I love reacting to Terrorhawks in this series. And then I was thinking we could watch an episode of New Captain Scarlet. And then I was thinking of doing something a bit special, reacting to an entire film, Thomas and Friends: The Great Discovery. So yeah, next time we're going to react to yet another episode of Terrorhawks, followed by an episode of New Captain Scarlet, followed by Thomas and Friends: The Great Discovery, and that will be followed by yet another episode of Terrorhawks after that. Hope you're all looking forward to all those reactions, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please like, comment, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to me, TrainLover16, if you haven't already. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye, everyone!